This is the Guns Magazine podcast, episode number 23. Hi there, and welcome to the Guns Magazine podcast. I'm your host and the editor of Guns Magazine, Brent T. Thanks for joining us as we talk to the interesting people who make up the world of shooting, hunting, and the firearms industry. Today, I'm talking with Shari LeGate. She's a well-known figure in the firearms industry. She's a world-class shooter, television personality, designer, entrepreneur, and also happens to be the video editor for both Guns and American Handgunner magazine. Shari's a 3-time national champion and a 2-time World Cup medalist and spent 12 years as a skeet shooter on the U.S. national team. She's also a 4-time Olympic shooting sports commentator for NBC television and has hosted her own TV shows and shooting DVD. Additionally, she owns Shoot the Moon, a woman's hunting and shooting clothes manufacturer, and serves as spokesman for MEC Reloading. Shari and I are friends, even though you might not always know it by listening. During today's episode, we cover how she went from having never fired a gun to competing on a national level within 2 years, plus what it's like to try and herd cats on the Guns Magazine video shoots, and we also cover her most memorable media appearance as the voice of Tonya the Tasty Tomato. We cover all that and more. Now here's my chat with Shari LeGate. Well, good morning, Shari. How are you?
I'm good, Brent, and good morning to you.
Well, it seems kind of weird to be doing an interview because we talk a lot. You are FMG Publications, which is the home to Guns Magazine and American Handgunner, and you are our video producer. But that's not really what we're focusing on today.
I know, and I'm a little nervous about that, actually.
Well, we'll try to be gentle. Now, everybody that I've talked to when I said I was going to interview Shari about her long and quite frankly, illustrious history as a shooter, we were going to not really talk so much about what your work is with FMG, even though it's great work, but we have to talk about how we first met. And I'll tell the story, which is we were at what we call the summit, and that's everybody from FMG gets together once a year out in San Diego at the home office because many of us work remotely, which is great. But we're sitting around a conference table, and Shari was talking, and frankly, I was a little bit aggravated because nobody had ever really told me what Shari does. So when I finally got a chance to speak, I said something that in retrospect sounds a little horsey on my part, but I said, quote, "So what in the hell is it you actually do here?" And for some reason, Shari took offense to that.
I remember when you said that. I looked over at you and went, "What?"
Yeah. Well, actually, there was that pause for about a second where I could read it in your face of, what in the hell did you just say?
I was stunned. I really was. Because I didn't know you. We'd met like maybe minutes prior to that. And this is our new editor of Guns Magazine. And he looks at me and goes, "So what is it exactly? What the hell do you do?"
Yeah. It was a little strong.
Which I, by the way, so everyone knows, I will never let you forget that.
And neither will anybody else in the entire company.
That's true.
Yeah, but then you got yours because you started in with the real serious face of, I can't believe you said that. You've really hurt my feelings. I may have to leave. And I bought it hook, line, and sinker. You're a great actress.
Oh my God, I sucked you so in. It was great. Yeah. And one of the other women in the company, she's a salesperson, Paula. Paula was sitting across, and she was across the table from us while I was doing that to you. And I was looking at her, and she had this look on her face because she knows me really well. And she's like, "What in the hell?" And then I just couldn't keep a straight face anymore. But boy, I had you so
absolutely. Absolutely. And, I'm a veteran cop. I'm usually pretty good at reading body language and picking out when people are, feeding me a line. And boy, you got me. You won.
I've been in broadcasting all my life. So, I pretty much can do that, I guess.
Yep. Well, and that leads into, we were just talking before we started recording of you're a 3-time national shooting champion and a 2-time world champion.
Correct.
The interesting thing to me, though, is reading your bio, you went from not shooting at all to the U.S. shooting team in 2 years. Now, how does somebody do that?
Well, I was blessed with talent, I guess, or just good hand-eye coordination. I'd been an athlete all my life. In school, I played volleyball, I played softball, and I was a tomboy. So
Ah,
I had athletic ability, and that is what helped me more than anything else. And you're right. No one in my family shot. We didn't even have a gun. I didn't know anything about guns. I saw it on television on a Saturday afternoon and it looked like fun and I wanted to try it. So I called up to some local gun shop or gun range and said, "Do you guys give lessons?" And they said, "Yeah, sure. Come on out. Come on out next Saturday." And I said, "How about 2:00?" They said, "That works." And I said, "Okay." And I showed up at 2:00 the following Saturday. And they handed me a beat up old 20 gauge shotgun, stuffed cotton in my ears, tied a builder's apron on me, and poured some 20 gauge shotgun shells in the pockets and pointed to a group of old men out on a skeet range and said, "Go on out there. Those guys will show you how to shoot." And I did. I didn't know I wasn't supposed to do that. I didn't know I was supposed to be intimidated or scared. I just walked out there.
And you hit 25 out of 25 that first time, and
No. About 3 months later, actually, that was when I did. I just had some talent for it, because I had 2010 vision, just very good hand-eye coordination, a lot of good athletic ability. And about 3 months later, I shot my first 25 straight, and there was a big event coming to Arizona at that time. And what I want to bring up, because this is really important, is when I saw this on television, I was watching a exhibition match between the 1984 gold medalist Matt Drake and the actor Robert Stack. I'm sure you remember him. And it was an exhibition match and they were shooting skeet. And that's what looked like fun. So now fast forward to after I shot my first 25 straight and I was shooting with these guys every weekend for, 6 months, I guess, or so they said this big match is coming called the Kachina Open to Arizona. It was an American skeet match. It was about 300 people that showed up for this match. And they said, "Come on, you got to go shoot this." Well, I had done competitions in high school, but it was, track and volleyball and softball and stuff like that. And I had no clue what I was doing, literally no clue. And I walked out there and I had to borrow a gun because I didn't have a 4-barrel set. I just had this little beat up 20 gauge shotgun that, by the way, I bought for $200 and I still have. And so they lent me one of their guns, which was a 4-barrel set of Belgian Browning. And I went out there and I shot and I wound up in a shoot off with Matt Drake.
Wow. So you find yourself in a shoot off after you had just started shooting a short time before. What was that like?
There was in this shoot off, there was probably 50 people. American skeet is, it's a game of more mental than it is fundamental. It's not an easy game, but it's an easy game to master once you learn it. You just have to stay very mentally strong.
Well, for some.
Right. So in the shoot off, there was like, 50 people and you shoot doubles and people drop out very quickly because then the mental aspect comes in. And I did not know that Matt was in there. And it was actually a shoot off for third place. It wasn't even for first place. And by the time we got to the third station, most all the people dropped out and there was maybe 4 of us. And one of them was Matt Drake. And I looked over at him and I said, "Oh my God, do you know who you are?" That's how silly the whole thing was to me. I was so clueless back then. And he looked at me and he went, "Yeah." Needless to say, I lost that shoot off, by the way. He did beat me. But I went on, I knew I wanted to shoot Olympic style skeet, so I changed to that and wound up shooting with him over the next couple of years. And he wound up being a good friend.
That's pretty cool. And apparently you met your husband along the way?
Yeah. When I wanted to learn Olympic style skeet, international skeet, there was only one place in Arizona that had that field, and that was at Luke Air Force Base. And it was only open on Sundays. So on Saturdays, I drove all the way out to Scottsdale to shoot American skeet with these guys. And then on Sundays, I drove clear across town to Luke Air Force Base, to shoot Olympic style skeet. Now, keep in mind, Brent, I went from shooting 25 straights and 100 straights to shooting 10s and 20s out of 100.
Wow.
Because that's how much more difficult international skeet was.
Yeah.
But I was not going to give up. So I would go shoot, then I'd go home and I'd load shells, and then I'd go back out that next weekend. But interestingly enough, back then, no one would show me how. All the guys were out there shooting, and I literally was out there struggling on my own. And I'd ask people to help me, and they were like, yeah, no, go get away from me, kid. It was a tough time back then.
Which I'm sure set well with you.
Oh, of course. Well, you know me, that just made me more determined. So anyway, I'm standing there and this guy walks up to me and he stands behind me and he goes, move your gun over here. And I hit some targets. And then he said, all right, let's take your feet and move them this way. And I did that and I hit more targets and I'm like, oh my God, this is working. And anyway, he wound up coaching me and then I wound up marrying him because I got tired of paying for lessons, actually.
Ah, okay.
And
makes complete sense.
Yeah. So, but he coached me to every medal I've ever won.
Very cool.
And it's amazing we're still married.
Even in spite of the pandemic and you're stuck in the house.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Well, listen, if you can go through coaching your wife for 20 years and then you can get through and still stay married, you can get through anything. Because we got in some amazing fights on the field.
I'm glad I wasn't there to see that. So,
well, I have to tell you just this one quick story. We were at a sporting clays match, and I missed a target. Okay, it happens. You just miss a target. And I remember I turned around and he looked at me and he said, "Why did you do that?" And I turned at him and I looked at him and I said, "Just to piss you off."
Oh, I'm sure it was a long ride home that night.
Yeah. So this pandemic, this is nothing. It's like trying to teach your wife how to drive, or ski.
Well, I have to say, though, I was talking to somebody else today, and even though you work from home, I work from home, and it's wonderful. But since we can't take like a study break and go run an errand, or we can't do that now, and I feel like the walls are closing in on me a little bit more.
Yeah. It's even though, when you work from home, you're a little bit isolated anyway. But for some reason, it seems a whole lot more right now.
Yeah.
So you just get out, walk, take a walk down the street. Like I take my dog for a walk, that kind of thing.
You said something about the skeet game being more mental. I didn't tell you this, even though we talk several times a week, that in, I believe it was February, so that would have been 2 months ago, I got invited to a skeet shoot, and I don't do much of that at all. And it was a group of riders, and it turned out that day it started out, it was like 4 degrees. So we're all bundled up in heavy coats, and I'm shooting a brand new gun I've never even fired before because I was going to be doing a review on a video, and I still haven't accomplished that because I hit a whopping 10 or 12 out of 25. It was pretty humbling. And of course, the writers were mostly outdoor writers, and they pointed out, "Oh, Mr. Gun Editor, super shooter guy, you're really knocking them dead, aren't you?" And it was pretty humbling. So the big thing was I should have got my mind right, huh?
Basically, yeah. It's skeet shooting, trap shooting, any kind of competition really is 90% mental, more than anything else. And when you get to a world-class level, everybody is fundamentally equal. It's who's stronger that day mentally. Yeah. So we all work on our mental game. But yeah, you know what? It's amazing how strong the mind is. I know I lived in Colorado Springs for 22 years and trained out at the Olympic Training Center. And we spent a ton of time, a majority of our time, working on our mental game because it's your mind that's going to win.
Yeah.
It's amazing how sometimes I know people who are not as fundamentally good as other people, but yet they still win because they walk out on that field and say, "You know what? There's nobody else out here that can beat me."
And I've heard that from other champions in the field. So it's interesting that you echo what they say.
It's true. It really is. It's amazing. It's amazing how strong your mind is, and we don't use our mind, not as much as we should.
Some of us more than others, but
yeah, I know.
So what is it like to be a member of the U.S. shooting team? You were there for 12 years. What is that like?
It's exciting. It instills a lot of pride, pride in country, pride in self, pride in your teammates. You really want to do well, not just for you, but for truly, truly for your country. There's nothing that is more amazing than standing on a podium and listening to your national anthem and watching your flag being raised.
Yeah.
It just, even now, it gives me chills when I think about that. It really is probably, it's a moment that's going to stay with you your entire life.
Well, sure.
So to be able to do that, it takes a lot of work. And there are people out there that say, well, Olympians are born, not made. And I truly do not believe that. If you work hard enough, you can do that. But it does take a lot of work. And I spent years and a lot of sacrifices getting to that level.
On a daily basis, I mean, do you go out and shoot a lot? Or, I mean, how does that whole process work?
It's all consuming. I shot every day. You wake up thinking about shooting. You go to bed thinking about shooting. You're driving down the street and you're working on your mental game, because there's mental exercises that you can do even while you're driving, or working around the house. It is literally all consuming. That's all you want to do. It's a fire in your belly. It really is. You hear people talk about that and you're like, yeah, no, I don't know what you're talking about. It truly, truly is, Brent. And it's a hunger. You can see nothing else. That's your whole life.
That's interesting, because I would say being a magazine editor to me is the exact same way.
Yeah.
As weird as that sounds.
No, I get it. I do. I understand. You have a passion and a love for what you do, and it overrides everything else.
So since you've been a championship shooter, you've done a lot of other things that we'll talk about. I know you've done everything from, you were a executive director of the Women's Shooting Sport Foundation that got absorbed into the National Wild Turkey Federation. You're a shooting coach. You have 3 patents.
Well, yeah, I'm working on my 3rd right now. The first 2 were, one's I designed a line of clothing for women. Back in the day when I was shooting, there wasn't a lot of clothes for women, and I'm 5'7", and my husband was 6'4". Well, he is 6'4". So I would wear his clothing, and yeah, it didn't fit. And I like to look decent when I was out shooting, but I didn't know how to sew, but I know what I liked. So I didn't know how to semi-draw. So I kind of drew what I wanted and took it to a home sewer and said, make this. And she did. And lo and behold, I started wearing it out there, and all these other women were coming up going, wow, where'd you get that? That's really nice. And this little cottage industry was born. So I got a design patent and designed a line of clothing and had that business for 17 years.
Wow.
I supplied the team vests, shooting clothing to a lot of the Olympic teams around the world, to colleges and universities in the United States that still wear them.
Well, I didn't realize you were a designer too. So what's your thoughts? And I'm sure I'll get an earful on this, but the industry is kind of known for, it's primarily run by men, even though ladies are making an inroads in that, but it's still an industry mostly run by guys, catering to guys. And the prevailing wisdom for a number of years was shrink it and pink it, and the ladies will buy it. No, we're learning that doesn't work so well.
Yeah. Wow. You really did hit a button with me, didn't you?
I'll sit back and let you go.
Yeah, I could go on for a long time. Yeah, no, shrink it and pink it doesn't work. And I said this one time. I said, years ago, a gun manufacturer made a shotgun, and they called it the Ladies' Youth Model.
Oh.
And I thought to myself, you know what? Thank you very much for telling me that I have the body of a 16-year-old boy. Women are built differently. Not just with these, hips and other bumps that we have, but even the way our shoulders are sloped, the way all kinds of things, the way the height of our neck and our cheekbones and all kinds of things. And so you can't just take something that a man has, downsize it, and change the color. I personally don't like pink. I know a lot of women who don't like pink.
Yeah, I've gotten ears full on that.
Yeah. So no, don't shrink it and pink it. And finally, for the longest time, the industry did that. And then they finally got wise and said, you know what, this isn't working, because we weren't buying it. We're like, no, I'm not going to wear that. I'm not going to shoot that. No, I don't want a paint gun. Would you go out and shoot a paint gun? See, Brent, you're getting me going.
Yeah.
Just better stop me or I'll be going on and on and on.
Oh, okay. Well, you've been featured in a lot of different instructional guides. I believe you got a DVD out, Women's Guide to Shotguns.
Well, that was something that actually came about from FMG Publications. I was approached by Randy Mulday there, and he said, you know, I think it's important that people understand, especially girls and women and young kids, that the basics of shooting, because sometimes those of us who are in the sport and have been in the sport a long time, we forget the basics that we need to tell people, like, you know what, this is how you put in an earplug. Because I remember when I first got my little foamy earplugs, I didn't know how to put them in, and no one really showed me, and I didn't want to ask. So this is a basic video on how to stay safe while you're shooting, and the equipment that you need, and how to properly use that equipment, and then the basic fundamentals of shooting.
Yeah.
Because you have to start out with your basic fundamentals. If you don't have your basic fundamentals, your whole journey into the shooting sports, no matter which discipline it is not going to be enjoyable.
Well, you know, this kind of hits on a topic combining several things you just mentioned. You know, recruitment and retention is so big in the hunting and shooting community, and we're really trying to reach out and involve people that are quote unquote non-typical, that basically aren't white guys, you know. And well, I mean, just calling it what it is. We know that. You go to any shooting range and look who's there. But I will say, in the last couple of years, women, you're seeing more of them. You're seeing them interested in all aspects, from hunting to competition. What do you think the industry could do to bring more ladies or people of color or youth into this field that frankly can be pretty intimidating? Because I've been on the same as you have, where you go to a new range or a gun store and there's some old guys sitting down at the end and they just look at you like you don't belong here. Oh
man, I can't tell you how many times that's happened to me. Even gun stores. I walk into gun stores today, and even, you know, the guy will look at me and just, they ignore you. So I think, in answer to your question, is number one, don't ever assume anything. Don't assume that just because it's a woman, you should shrink it and pink it. Mm-hmm. Or just because it's a person of color, that they're going to want this type of firearm or this type of clothing, or they're going to shoot this type of discipline. Yeah. Don't ever make an assumption. And the biggest thing that the industry, I think, can do that they don't do is they need to talk to their customers. They need to talk to these people, ask them questions. Too many times, and I don't want to get off on a lecture, but too many times you've got people sitting in their little ivory towers out there that aren't in the trenches. They don't know what's going on out there. They're just looking at their bottom line, or they're looking at what they think that people need. So I think what the industry could do better, and what gun store owners can do as well, is talk to your customer more. Spend some time chatting with them. Find out what they want. Exactly. And, you know, things are going pretty good right now, unfortunately, due to panic and pandemic. I'm hearing he probably can't find a gun or a round of .22 ammo anywhere in the country. But, you know, at some point, all this is going to calm down, and the industry is going to have to be reaching out to folks. So I know a gun store that is now, they're still open here in Phoenix, but they're open by appointment only because they don't have any product. Yeah. People they said that they in 2 months have paid their rent for the entire year. Wow. That's how good sales are right now. But it goes back to what's happened, you know, years ago during the other administration, when we had this panic and people bought all these guns and everything, and then it all leveled out. And the same thing's going to happen after this pandemic is over. And I was having that discussion with somebody on the phone right before you and I started talking.
And he said something that Al Casper, the CEO of Savage, told me during our podcast interview at the SHOT Show was, I think manufacturers maybe learned something from that huge spike during the previous administration, and they realized it's not real smart to go all in and try to meet that demand right then it eventually goes away and you're sitting on a whole pile of product and a lot of people that you're responsible for, and you can't keep any of it. So I'm hopeful that the industry is paying attention, that they're not going to go crazy and say, oh, this demand's going to be here forever.
Those are very, very smart words from Al. I think it's absolutely true, and I do hope they learn. There's going to be some that don't, but sure, most of them, I think, we've learned, and we have to weather the highs and the lows.
Yep.
And learn how to keep those even, how to keep that level.
And I think this also presents a great opportunity that I keep telling anybody that'll listen. And this is primarily directed at the gun store folks, the owners and the salespeople. There's going to be a huge opportunity to provide training, because all these guns, a few of them were probably folks like you and I, but most of the folks I know that are regular shooters didn't have to buy anything because they've already got what they need. Most of this demand came from folks that didn't know what they were doing, but they felt they needed protection. So my belief is the vast majority of the guns sold in the last month are probably in a drawer or a closet, and we'll never see a gun range unless we do some things to reach out to those folks, provide activities, provide training, provide ways that you can keep that gun relevant in their life when they're not panicked about, the wolf is crouched at the door.
Oh my gosh, that's so true. Those never truer words than what you just said. I actually just wrote a blog on how to introduce people to the shooting sports, to take them out to the range, because you're right. We've got all these people out there now that have all these guns and they don't know how to use them.
Yep.
They don't know how to be safe with them. They don't know how to shoot them, but they felt like they needed one. And that's okay, because at least they're not on the fence anymore. They're gun owners, and that's a positive thing. But now let's take the time to educate them. So my blog, when I wrote this blog, I talked about invite them to go out and shoot, but do it in a way where you just don't say, hey, meet me out at the range, because 9 times out of 10, they're not going to go. We talked about this earlier, how intimidating it is to walk out on a range that when you're by yourself. Go by, pick them up. Say, hey, let's go to lunch and then let's go out to the range, and, take their gun. You can even supply the ammunition the first time. Just show them an enjoyable experience and show them how to do it right. And then you'll wind up having a new shooting buddy.
Exactly. And our community gains another supporter, and it's just a good thing all around.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%. I mean, we have had this huge rush on guns from people who don't know really probably what they're doing. But this is a great opportunity for us to step forward, those of us who are shooting enthusiasts, to put our best foot forward and say, hey, we're here to help you.
Yep. And, I've taught people that are literally, very progressive, shall we say, and members of groups that I don't especially support their viewpoint. And I remember one lady in particular, we thought she was joking when she had a PETA t-shirt on. And, some of my friends were like, well, you didn't really want her in the class. And I said, yeah, I did, because I think by the end of this weekend training we were conducting, she discovered gun people are pretty cool people. Yeah. I'm not going to change her political views, but maybe I'll change her views on the Second Amendment and realize we're not the evil, crazed, whatever description you want to find in the New York Times or the Washington Post.
Yeah, those are the ones. I agree with you. I mean, just because we might have a political difference, I mean, there's a lot of liberals out there that are gun owners. Now, I don't agree with their liberal views, but the fact that they're a gun owner, yeah, we got something in common. But it's also a chance to get them to possibly vote the right way when it comes to their Second Amendment rights. And it's also a good opportunity for us to, again, put our best foot forward. You said to show what we're not. And a lot of times I tell people, you know what, we're not the tobacco spitting, pickup driving rednecks y'all think we are.
Some of us are, but
well,
there's a lot more. Actually, I smoke cigars. I don't chew. But you were talking about your blog. You've done a lot of media. Actually, wasn't that your major in college?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I was a journalism major in college.
So you've done radio, you've done television. You're still working with NBC as a shooting sports commentator.
Yep, I was. I'm supposed to cover Tokyo. This will be my 4th Olympics with them as their target sports analyst. I cover all 17. Well, now it's 15 shooting sports. So I've done that. I'll do that with them. I was with NBC or ESPN for 6 years as their target analyst for the Great Outdoor Games. I don't know if you remember those. Those were fun.
Sure.
And then I had my own show on the Outdoor Channel for 4 years called Pull, Tour of America's Great Gun Clubs. And we went all over the country and showcased the shooting clubs that just to support the sport. So, and then prior to that, I was in radio.
Can you say good morning, everybody?
Yeah, I could, but I'll let you do it because you do it better than I do.
Yeah,
I will. I'll share something with you though, and I know if I do, I have to now because I just said this, but I know you are never going to let me live this down. But my biggest claim to fame when I was in radio was I was the voice of a commercial. I was Tonya the Tasty Tomato.
Long, empty pause.
I know.
You know, Shari, these microphones are on. These are turned on.
I know. I debated whether or not I wanted to share that with you, but hey, what are friends for?
Well, I think we just got on an equal footing. So when we start the back and forth, Tonya the Tasty Tomato is going to show back up. Now,
but I refuse to wear the costume. I would not go stand on, out there at their little promotions where, I would not do that.
That would be Tonya the Surly Tomato.
Yeah, really.
Now, I've got to laugh because you are a video producer. You do a fantastic job. But I got to say, our video shoots, when we're doing stuff, and this is not Shari's fault at all, but they generally turn into like some kind of comedy skit. You talk about trying to herd cats. Compare what we do to what's it like to work on like an NBC set at the Olympics. That's got to be, you've got like your own pastry chef and all that stuff.
Oh my gosh, it's night and day difference. Yeah, what we do here, I call what we do guerrilla television. All right, it's guerrilla radio, guerrilla video. No, you have, when you're like with at NBC or ESPN, I mean, everything is really overproduced and you have a person for everything. You have a person who's carrying your wires that are to your headset while you're walking around. I had a little intern. Great kid. He was probably 17, 18 years old. His only job was to make sure that I had a bottle of water.
Wow.
So he followed me around all day long and kept saying, Ms. LeGate, do you want water? Do you need some water? And I'm like, I'm fine. Go sit down.
Now, can we do that on our video shoots?
Yeah, no.
It would be bourbon and water, but.
Brett, if you looked at me and said, I'm parched, I need some water, I'm going to look at you and say, yeah, here's a hose, open wide.
Well, I'm just hoping I can remember at some point we call cut. Now let's do a second take. Tonya, I really need a glass of water, but it's got to be shaken, not stirred.
Just remember one thing, Brett. I'm the editor. I can make you look really good or really bad.
Well, but I normally make myself look really bad, so.
No, that's not true.
No, you make us look better than probably what we deserve, and we certainly appreciate that. I'm looking at this list here. You have done so much stuff. I mean, you're a spokesperson for MEC. What's some of the other stuff I didn't hit here?
Well, let's see. I'm a brand ambassador for MEC Reloaders. And what I do for them is they sponsor free clinics around the country for kids. And they bring me in and I coach them. MEC supplies the ammunition, the targets, me. All you need to do, all these kids need to do is show up with their guns and they'll get an hour and a half of free coaching.
Wow.
Just to introduce them to the shooting sports, or if they have a problem, like sometimes I'll get a team. They used to, in Wisconsin, I think it was the Birmingham or Burlington shooting team, their high school team. I used to come up there. MEC would bring me up there to help them work out some of their issues. So I still do a lot of coaching. I love to coach kids. I love to introduce people to the shooting sports.
Very cool. And I'm sure you're quite good at it. You've never coached me, but if we can get our personality differences aside, I'm fairly sure you know what you're doing.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you finally figured out just what is it the hell that I do.
Exactly. So in a career filled with highlights, if I strap you down and threaten you with Tonya the Tomato, could you name maybe one or two most memorable moments?
Sure. Yeah, I can actually. It's very easy, and it's not it wasn't about winning medals. Yeah, standing on the podium, listening to your national anthem is a memorable moment. But two things I think have happened in my career that are things that I'm very, very proud of. Number one was that in 2001, I was awarded the Shooting Industry Award for Person of the Year from the industry. And that was because when I was the executive director of Women's Shooting Sports Foundation, I created a program called A Day at the Range, which became the precursor to First Shots. They took the model of that, and NSSF created First Shots. But in the course of that program, I introduced 30,000 women to the shooting sports. And what made that so memorable for me was that it was by vote, by my peers, which was all men in the industry. It was all the CEOs and the presidents and marketing directors of our industry. So it was a vote from my peers. And that's something that I'm very, very proud of. And then the other thing that I did that was because of the shooting industry that it became so successful was I chaired a committee for 2 years to raise awareness for ovarian cancer. Mm-hmm. And so I did it with a shooting event. And I went to the industry and asked for help from the industry. And they rose to the occasion. And in 2 years, we raised, with 2 events, we raised almost $250,000.
Wow.
And so I think those 2 things in my career, I think are something that I'll always remember because I'm really proud of those 2 things.
And you should be. Those were great things. Now I'm going to go the other direction, and this is challenging because we're always hesitant to name names, and we're still working in the industry. But is there anything you wouldn't want to repeat again?
Yeah, Tonya the Tasty Tomato.
Okay, aside from the tomato incident.
No. I got to tell you, I mean, I have enjoyed my career. I've been so lucky. My avocation and my vocation are almost the same thing. So everything that I've done, I mean, it hasn't always been easy. I mean, I'll tell you, there's some times where I was like, oh my God, but I wouldn't redo or regret anything that I've done. You know, you keep saying, Brent, that I did all these things, but, I didn't wake up and say, oh, I'm going to do all this. I woke up every day and looked around and saw what needed to be done and then just did it. Whether it was, and I didn't do it for recognition or fame or glory, or consequence. And trust me, there was a lot of consequences. Wow. I look back on some of those things and I'm like, ooh. But you know what? It's been a great journey for me. And I don't think I regret any of it. Well,
that's a great place to be. And, on that note, so at some point you're going to retire out of the shooting sports. What do you want your legacy to be?
Oh, geez. You know what? I gave you that question to ask somebody once, and now you're throwing it back at me? Really?
Honestly, absolutely.
I don't know. I never really thought about what my legacy would be. I just want people to think of me in a good light, I guess, that, I did what I could to promote my sport, my industry, and that I always tried to do the right thing. I don't know. I never really, that's a tough question for me, Brent, because I never really thought about it.
It's tough being on the other side of the microphone, isn't it?
God, I'm so gonna make your life miserable for the next couple of video shoots, just so you know.
So great stuff, serious stuff. But I got to ask, you're the ace videographer, video editor for FMG Publications, and you work with guys like me and Roy Huntington. So what's it like being the video editor at FMG?
I liked how you said I was the ace video editor. I'm the only video editor.
Well, you got a team of thousands, right?
Oh yeah. That's right. I remember what you said before. Yeah. We have 10,000 people that work for us. I remember that. What's it like to be the video? You know what? It's fun. I enjoy working with you guys because we're a good team.
Yeah.
And I'm not just saying that to be nice, but I think all of us, you, Roy, Mikhail over at American Handgunner, even our sales guys, we make a good team. So it's really fun. And I think what's the best thing about us is that none of you guys, meaning the editors or the writers, because I've worked with Will Dabbs and a couple of our other great writers, we don't take ourselves really seriously.
Yeah.
We have a good time. And we get the information to our readers, to our viewers, and we enjoy doing it. And that's what makes us, I think, special, better than anybody else out there, and why it makes my job so fun. Because I'm not dealing with a bunch of egotistical, talented eggheads.
Well, we're not talented or eggheads, but we are ragingly egotistical. That's why the first moment I met Tom McHale was at in person anyway, was at SHOT Show Media Day. And what was it? What was the first video we did? Coming out of portalets.
Oh God, yeah, I remember that. That was so much fun.
Except I've got a bone to pick with our boss. At the SHOT Show, I also came up with a couple of other toilet-related commercials, and we were going to shoot them, and then we decided no. And then what does our boss Randy do? He sends out an email with him surrounded by toilet paper, and it goes viral.
I know. I saw that, and I was like, really? That was a fun shoot, by the way, with you guys coming out of those portalets. Oh, my.
Well, I've said this for years. We're silly and ignorant, but we have a lot of fun.
And that's all that matters.
It truly is. So, Shari, it's been great talking to you. I've learned a few things, including vegetable-related radio. I'm sure our conversations in the future are really going to get interesting. So I appreciate you taking time and talking about yourself. You normally like to be behind the camera or the microphone. So we'll do this again someday.
Oh, I would love to do it. And hey, congratulations. Your podcasts are doing really good. And I'm proud of you for that. Good job, man.
Well, and this one I think is really going to take off. So
all right. I'll talk to you later.
I had a great time talking with my friend Shari LeGate, and I only hope she doesn't make good on her threats to make me look even worse on video. With that, we hope you're enjoying the Guns Magazine podcast. Please tell all your friends, even the liberals. Guns Magazine is #1 in the business, and we're using our decades of friendships to bring you the most interesting chats in the gun world. If you've got questions, comments, or a guest you'd like to recommend for the show, please email me, editor@gunsmagazine.com. Make sure you don't miss out on anything by subscribing to us on your favorite podcast directory and YouTube. Of course, you can always listen and download all of our episodes at gunsmagazine.com. And while you're at it, don't forget to check out our sister publication, American Handgunner magazine, at americanhandgunner.com. That's it for this episode of the Guns Magazine podcast. For the entire crew at FMG Publications, I'm Guns Magazine editor Brent Wheat. Now get out there and get shooting.